Hello and welcome to the John Ark Show. Today's episode is called Hiding Pablo Escobar's Cash. Before we begin, I want to encourage you to subscribe, like, comment, and follow us. Also, remember to click on the notification bell so you can be notified every time we upload a new episode. I'd like to tell you about a service called HollywoodIsCalling.com. It's a great service that allows you to purchase live phone calls from your favorite celebrities. So check it out. It's something you can buy as a gift for yourself or someone you know. A live 15-second call from a celebrity is $19.95, and a live 30-second call is $29.95. So give it a try. HollywoodIsCalling.com. Now, let's get started. Everyone knows who Pablo Escobar was. He was one of the largest cocaine dealers in the world. But what a lot of people don't know is that Escobar buried billions of dollars in cash, gold, and diamonds throughout Colombia and the property he owned in other countries. At the peak of his empire, Escobar was making an estimated $500 million a week and using that money to purchase mansions, planes, dinosaur fossils, zoo animals, submarines to transport his drugs, and countless other things. The problem is that the money was coming in faster than he could spend it. The Colombian banks wouldn't touch his money, so he had to hide it in many places, both inside of Colombia and outside of its borders. Now, the belief is that much of that cash is lost because the only person who knew the account numbers was Escobar. He also hid tremendous amounts of money in the ground by shrink wrapping it and burying it in barrels or steel boxes. He was also reported to have buried thousands of gold bars. By some reported estimates in the media, more than a fifth of all the $100 bills in Colombia were buried in the earth thanks to Pablo. It has been claimed that Pablo was earning so much money each year that he would write off 10% of that money because the rats would eat it in the storage containers or it would be destroyed by underground water. By some reported estimates, Escobar was reportedly responsible for 80% of the cocaine being smuggled. He was smuggling so much cocaine that he had accumulated a massive fleet of planes and submarines to transport all of it north. Now, when he died at the age of 44, Forbes magazine listed him as the seventh richest man in the world. By one account, he was reported to be spending $2,000 a month on just rubber bands so he could wrap up all that cash. Escobar built an entire neighborhood from the ground up in Medellin for the families that once lived in the slums. Building thousands of homes for the poor earned him the nickname of Robin Hood. It also provided him with many stash houses in the community where he could hide his money and his drugs. Even more importantly, it provided him with the undying loyalty of all the residents who were always eager to help him when needed. By some accounts, Escobar is reported to have buried a lot of his money near his homes, which were located throughout Colombia, Mexico, and Florida. One Colombian paper published photos of some $4 million that were recovered in 3 barrels back in 1989. Months later, 25 million in gold bars were found buried where Escobar had hidden it. In 2009, another 5 million was found in the jungle near some of Escobar's former factories. A few years later, there were public reports that another man found $450 million buried in barrels out in the fields. Now, most experts and people familiar with the Escobar situation believe that far more cash and gold and hidden assets all across the world remain undiscovered. Even more ominous is that a location scout that was filming for places to shoot scenes for the TV show Narcos was allegedly killed recently, and the production crew was warned not to do any more filming in Mexico or Colombia. Over the years, a number of teams searching for Escobar's money have used all sorts of technology to find it. They have used bomb detecting drones that take highly detailed aerial photographs that can spot a shoe imprint or a disturbance in the soil. They have also used scanners that can see through walls and floors. They have used CIA contacts to set up meetings with Escobar's former people and employees to try and find out more about where the money may be. So we have to ask the question, would there have been a better and more effective way to conceal Escobar's money and assets so that so much of it wasn't destroyed by rats or groundwater or God knows what else? We analyzed the problem and we think we've come up with some theoretical solutions that would have been far more effective at concealing and preserving Escobar's billions. First of all, the plastic barrels that were used to hide the cash were apparently not hermetically sealed or watertight. A far more effective method would have been to put the individual stacks of cash into vacuum sealed, airtight plastic wrappers. Then they should have put the plastic packets of cash into watertight plastic barrels. And then they should have placed those smaller plastic barrels into larger stainless steel barrels that were welded shut by professional welders to make them completely watertight and airproof. Now, when burying barrels, they should have buried them on elevated plots of land or hills that would be less affected by groundwater or open water sources. The next recommendation would have been to convert much of their wealth to gold, silver, and high quality diamonds, because those assets are much more resilient to the effect of water or other materials or chemicals that can damage them over time. Now, the next solution should have been to employ more shell companies to move more of Escobar's wealth to other countries that don't have extradition treaties with either Colombia or the United States. Some countries with no extradition treaties include Russia, China, Ukraine, Moldova, and Africa. By acquiring assets in countries like that, he could have employed special law firms to conceal his ownership in them and preserve the secrecy of those assets for future use. Another option would be to conceal some of the cash or assets in the mountainous regions of Colombia so that they're only accessible by helicopter. Hiding the cash in such geographically inaccessible regions would have made it much harder for the government or his enemies to search for and locate his hidden cash or gold or anything else he may have tried to hide. Another thing he could have done would have been to purchase legitimate businesses in non-extradition countries. He would have to secretly purchase enormous assets like shopping malls, check cashing companies, or restaurant chains so that he could use them to launder very substantial amounts of drug money. Another option would have been for him to secretly start purchasing 747 airliners back in the 70s. Now, back then, you could purchase them for about 25 million each and then start leasing them out to the airlines. Today, a 747 could easily sell for $350 million, which means that Pablo would have increased his investment in those planes by tenfold. And he would have also been generating millions of dollars a year per plane in leasing revenue back to the airlines. If he had purchased just 10 747s for $25 million each, that would have set him back less than a week's worth of cocaine profit. But the value of those planes would have increased from $250 million to $2.5 billion over time. And he would also have made several billion dollars more in leasing fees from the airlines for the use of his planes. Now, who knows how much more of Pablo's hidden cash or assets will ever be found, but I can tell you this, no matter how dangerous the search is, I suspect that people will keep looking for it. And who knows, maybe someday some farmer or construction worker will stick a shovel in the earth and discover millions of Pablo's dollars. I want to thank you for watching and tell you we're going to have more great celebrity interviews and more breaking news stories coming up in the future. So we want to encourage you to subscribe to our channel and click on the notification button so you get notified every time we post a story. Thank you.